Okay, guys, so we're back with another ZoxTalks Chaos Zero Nightmare, and we're going to be getting into our theory breakdowns. Now, this is going to be something I'm going to have featured on the channel for every single season and for every single update within that season, where we actually talk about all of the new characters that might be coming, as well as partners, if we have that information accessible to us officially, and of course, then talking about the synergies and really highlighting in-game how those synergies are applicable and just kind of even some of the epiphanies you may want to look at. And this, of course, is an open opportunity for you guys to join the conversation so that you can give your thoughts and ideas on what you might try to actually work on. And even for those of you guys that may not be too sure, maybe it will give you the opportunity to have some sort of know-how to build your knowledge on more aspects of Chaos Zero Nightmare. So we're going to go ahead and jump right into it. Obviously, the very first unit that we have coming is Yuki, right? And we've gotten a ton more information on what this character is going to be bringing to the game. And I think that that's the exciting part, is that the more information we get, the more that we know of what we could possibly do with her. So as far as we know that she is going to be an order attribute, and she is going to be of the striker class, right? And this combatant is supposed to be giving us the ability of having a balanced character in both offense and defense, right? Now, with the infographics that they also have posted on their X page, they do start to kind of slightly break down the mechanics. And one of the things that they really are highlighting here is that she is a combatant that becomes stronger with the inspiration effect activated. And it allows her to be able to engage multiple enemies with powerful attacks using cards that specialize in area damage. Now, the inspiration effect itself is when this card is added to your hand by an ability, activate inspiration, excluded from the draw at the start of turn. Okay, so this is the base foundation that we have to keep in mind when we're talking about how we can get Yuki to do X thing or do more damage. And because we're already starting to identify that we're working with drawing cards, this means that we're going to be looking at trying to really, I would say, execute a lot of different setups with low costs on the cards if you possibly can help it, right? Now, it says point 1, maintain the inspiration effect by keeping your deck draw rate high. Now, how exactly are you going to get your draw rate higher? You're going to need cards that allow you to draw more cards, right? Now, there's a lot of different characters, and there's also a lot of other cards that can come to mind that would allow you to be able to draw more cards, not only just in general, but also either affecting that combatant, or even in some cases, depending on who it is, there's even units that have cards that can be drawn that are specific to their cards, right? So we're going to revisit that in a second. But then point 2, it says Yuki specializes in area damage, pairing well with agents who have strong single target damage, right? So that means, of course, it's kind of like allowing you to make up for in the area that she may not be as strong as. I think she's still decent in the single target area, but she definitely is more of an AoE specialist, right? Now, the thing is that when we go over to the recommended synergies, and this is what I really want to actually dive into here, it talks about here. And what's kind of funny here is that we got Nia in every comp, which I'm going to go in game and kind of explain as to why that is. And I know some people are probably like, yo, dude, nobody ever really talks about it. But listen, I know that the hype has been all around Mika, but Mika is really good for cards that, and really honestly, having a ton of AP so that you can utilize it as much as you possibly can with different variations in card costs and stuff like that. Really, that's like what that's about. It's like higher card costs. She's going to be able to help you out a ton because she can actually upkeep the AP for that. But like, let's look at this very first synergy here, right? So it says increases inspiration activation rate and damage support, right? Now, increasing the inspiration activation rate, right? And this is the whole point of why Nia is here. And then you also have Veronica paired up with this as well. So let's actually take a look real quick over in game, because I think that that actually will give you a little bit more perspective on what exactly we're looking at here. So we actually go over to where's she at? Nia, right? So let's actually take a look at her cards, and this will give you a huge perspective shift if you don't know what she does, right? Now, Nia basically is a character that is able to do a couple of different things. She discards cards, but also will allow you to be able to draw cards. She also has a unique effect that allows her to be able to activate the cards to where, like, if you discard a card, you can put it on top of your draw pile. And that is actually really important to note, right? And then she also has a really cool skill that I actually like to get on equipment, where it will reveal 3 random cards from the draw draw pile, and you get to choose one of the draw discard, choose one to draw, and then discard the rest. So that's really, really insane, right? Now, the thing is, though, is that you don't want to just look at these cards just at face value. You want to see what the potential epiphanies are. Now, granted, we're not going to be able to see like what the rare occurrence or special condition epiphanies are for these. At least I can't show them all, but this at least will give you a generalized idea as far as what you could potentially be seeing from a character like her. Now, considering that this is not a high AP, like combination that you're really building into, definitely giving characters or having character come into play that have zero cost is going to help you out a lot, because it's going to allow you to be able to be more effective in utilizing Yuki's cards. Now, for example, right, it says draw 2 cards and discard 2 cards. With this effect, move discarded cards to the top of the draw pile. Now, there's a lot of different scenarios that could actually help you, whereas like say your hand in that specific turn doesn't really have a ton of the cards that you need to really execute the amount of damage that you want for Yuki. You can draw another 2 cards and get rid of 2 cards that could be for Yuki, for example, to have them rotate into that next next dealing of your hand, right? So there's a lot of different ways that you can kind of play with that. Now, another one that would actually be really OP for a character like Yuki is actually going to be this one here, all the way on the right hand side, where it discards 1 and then draw 2 cards of the owner of that card. And this is what I was saying as far as cards that specifically will pull cards from that specific character. There are characters that are able to do this for themselves. Like, for example, I play Ren a lot, and Ren does have the ability to actually draw her own attack cards. And this would actually then kind of emphasize you really getting your build shaved down to where you want it. Because like, let's say, for example, you only want to make sure that you're pulling DPS cards with your Nia for like, say, Yuki, then it is going to be really important that you do that when you're creating your save data. Because when she draws those 2 cards, she's just going to pull any 2 cards that belong to that character. So it can still mess up your rotation if you're just not mindful of those things. So again, just kind of food for thought, but this does kind of get you into that headspace where you're starting to understand, okay, why is this character being presented here? And it's because this character, even with the epiphanies, is going to allow you more able opportunity for you to be able to utilize more of your own cards, right? And so then even if we were to look at like Nia's Curiosity, right? This card, like I said, is one card that I think is really, really cool because it allows you to be able to see what exactly you might have in your hand, and then you can pick something that will further help you amplify your damage in that turn, for example, right? And so keeping in mind, though, that she also has other effects that come into play. That is definitely something that really makes her a really, really huge asset. And that's just, of course, just like a little bit of a simple overview of the things that you can do with Nia, because there's definitely some crazier things you can do as far as having her as support when you're able to get some of those rare occurrence epiphanies, or what we call like the it's like the goddess or the monster ones, for example, or the Nephilim epiphanies, for example. Those definitely can change like immensely how much more impactful this character is. But that just kind of gives you a good idea, right? Now, we also have characters like Veronica, right? Now, again, they're showing her in this very first setup. And you may be wondering, why exactly is that? Again, this is another character that has a card, for example. And if we go over to her epiphanies, she can draw other cards or other combatants' cards, right? So this is something that is like really, really huge, for how she operates as a character. Now, even like, say, for example, we're trying to just reduce the cost of this, which I think the base cost of this is 1. So it does give you shield, which is cool, right? But like when you epiphany this, getting this to a 0 cost where you just draw 2 other combatants' cards, this means that you can have a constant flow of cards. Now, the other thing is too, she does have like this reload gimmick that does kind of play a big part into what she's also able to bring to the table. But that's definitely something that kind of variates what you might be actually trying to aim for. So there are some things you'll have to experiment with, but it's just kind of give you a base foundation of, how this kind of works, right? As far as like what you could potentially pull. And these aren't even like special epiphanies yet. Like these are just your regular epiphanies. So she does have the capability of being able to draw more cards, which again would help you in turn with giving more opportunity for Yuki to do damage, right? So when we're actually going back real quick, to the infographic that they have up. Again, that's why you have damage support, inspiration, and then also important factor too, they are able to help you amplify some of that damage. So I just want to kind of make sure I state that, because somebody's gonna be like, hey, actually. But really, really important stuff just to, keep in mind. Now with the next setup, we have characters like Barrow being swapped out for Veronica, which is definitely a little bit more, and I would say a lot more free to play accessible. And I guess these next three teams are definitely a lot more free to play accessible because they still consist of Nia, which I think Nia is definitely going to be one of the better units to have paired up with Yuki. But you have Barrow, Cassius, and then also Luca. And I definitely would say with Barrow definitely is one of those characters that's going to offer you a lot of single target damage support, right? And that's one of the biggest things that I feel like when we're looking at like, how you're able to get her to, really, I'll say, kind of fill in those gaps or the areas that you may need. Because in some fights, it's like, okay, cool, AoE damage is great. But in others, you're definitely going to want to kind of hammer down on the single target aspect of, kind of filling in, like I said, that gap, right? Now, the cool thing is, and this is like the thing that I think kind of gives you a lot more value to this unit, is that you're able to get X amount of things with basically 2 units, and you could swap out really honestly anybody, which I mean 4 different options is pretty solid depending on what it is that you're actually aiming to build or get out of the character. Now the other thing is too, is that with Barrow, so let's actually show Barrow real quick, because Barrow actually is a unit that I'm actually pretty hyped to build at some point, because she can actually pop off quite a bit when it comes down to like her AoE damage. But she also, which I think a lot of people forget, if they're not, well, they're not they forget, but if you're not using her, you just don't know, right? But she also has the ability to draw cards, right? Now it is an exhaust, but this is also a 0 cost card, right? And this is something that also kind of plays into her own gimmick, where she is able to retain cards as well. So you can go for, like, example, something like this, where you draw 1, but it also activates the retain effect on all cards in her hand, or in your hand. You could draw 3, but then you also get morale, draw 3, and also reduce the cost of 1 random card in your hand. That's actually really, really good when you're talking about trying to keep costs low as possible. Now, I know somebody's going to bring up the fact that I think Yuki has a 9 cost card. There are definitely some ways, which I have some videos kind of talking about that a little bit more in depth, where you can try to use that card. And I know some people are going to come up with some real crazy strategies behind that card. But the other thing is too, is that with the retain effect that she has, it's also going to allow her to amp damage on her cards. And then also she's going to be able to increase the number of hits, right? So like open found here, you can see here, we can get more hit counts. You can go and change the cost when you retain to 0. There's a lot of different things that you can actually do with Barrow. So Barrow also does fit universally into a low cost team setup, and then also has the capability of really amping that single target damage, giving you the multi hits, which is also effective on certain boss archetypes that require you to hit them multiple times, because they have X amount of like I forgot what the buff is that certain monsters get, but it's like hunger, for example, is a perfect example, right? And the more times that you hit them, the more times that will fall off, right? So it's a lot that kind of goes into what you could potentially be seeing and or do with these said characters, right? And so, yeah, it's definitely really cool to see. I know they have Luca on there as well. Luca definitely, definitely is a little bit crazier when it comes down to AoE damage supporting. So it actually makes a lot of sense that they have a character like this being paired up with her, because basically what you would even be able to get from him is like weakening, for example. So he's able to offer some extra debuffs, and then also increasing damage to like enemies with shields. And then even when we're looking at like the epiphanies and stuff like that, he can also mark as well. So that's another thing that's really important if you're trying to get some extra damage, on enemies, even even after the fact of dealing X amount of damage. But then even like I said, being able to have this at a 1 cost and in 2 weekends is pretty good. So yeah, that's something that definitely will help you with like, keeping yourself alive and stuff like that. So that definitely does help quite a bit. And then also on top of that, he has this lead effect, which I think is going to be kind of interesting to see how this kind of plays into different like setups and stuff like that. So even with like the extended magazine, he can create 1 launcher bullet. And if we actually go over to the different types of bullets that he has, they all come with some sort of different effect. You got impair, you got weaken, you got agony, action count increase. There's a lot of different things that you can really honestly try to enable with this guy. And he's definitely a character I feel like is a little overshadowed because of all the hype with a lot of other characters right now. But then because of like the lead effect, this also can be reduced by 1 cost. So it's a 50% chance, which is actually fairly high. Because like literally it's a 1 out of 2 chance, right? For you to be able to get that at a 0 cost, and that's only going to help you with being able to do more X amount of damage, right? So even down to some of the suggestions that they're given, I feel like these are actually like really solid. And I'm hoping that they continue to do more of this for some of the other characters. I know they're going to probably do this for more of the newer characters coming into play. But yeah, so that's kind of that, right? Now, outside of that, are there any, and I want to kind of get to this part of the segment, are there any out of the box combinations that I'm interested in or that I think could possibly work? I feel like personally, with a character like Yuki, if she's going to be being ran at really low cost, you're running her with another unit that's able to draw cards, and running her at really low cost, I think the one thing that you want to kind of keep in mind is, and this is like one thing that I've been like kind of like learning with a lot of the characters, is if a character is selfish or extremely like hungry with their gimmick. Now, this goes back to the original point, which is how exactly does inspiration work? It's when this card is added to your hand by an ability. Activate inspiration. Okay. Now, the thing is that if we want that excess or extra damage to make her stronger, it has to be added by a skill card. Okay. Now, the thing is that when I'm looking at, okay, can I run a character like Ren? Can I run a character like, what's his name? Hugo, X, Y, and Z, whoever it is you want to run, right? I have to think about a completely different build. So like if I wanted to say run my Ren with her, I would have to think of a Ren build where I'm drawing more cards so I can activate the inspiration effect and really actually determining who you want to be the main focal point of that team setup. And I would say that from the looks of it, Yuki is going to be a pretty selfish character if we're trying to amplify the inspiration effect. So I think there are different combinations that can work, but I think it's just all in a matter of what cards are you going for. So if you want to use, say, characters like Mika, then you need to also consider drawing effects, right? Every character that you put on the team needs to have some sort of drawing effect to make this character have the most utility or her highest potential, right? So I think that that's definitely like a really, really big thing if you're trying to lean into the inspiration effect, right? Now, before we end this video, I actually want to take the time to talk about something that was just posted at the recording of this video, which is the update to what we're going to be getting, and more specifically talking about the shop items. This is something that I actually was going to do a whole separate video on, but I figured might as well just include it here because this is what we're all aiming for, these items, all the stuff we can get. Now, obviously, there's stamina in here in the first supply store, and I think first and foremost, the way they're doing this is by supply store intervals, right? So there's going to be the first, the second, and the third supply store interval. They have different dates for when these are going to be starting, and then, of course, when they're going to be ending. Now, one thing that I want to make sure everybody knows is when exactly we're getting the Omega code, which they say it can be obtained during the second supply phase, right? So the first supply store is going to actually be offering us Tear of God, Signal, Amplification Anchor, which is gacha currency, the Rescue Anchor, and then also Prism Lens. This is all like gacha stuff. The Underdetermined Ego Crystal, Shards of Condemnation, which these are like going into like the weekly farmed resources, which is going to help us further build what we need to build, and we can get 5 times per account. Multi-dimensional alignment material, advanced striker manual, and advanced striker certificate, which is necessary for promotions. We also are going to be getting the premium growth stone of order, which is necessary obviously for your potentials. And then we have traces of memory, core of memory, and then particles of memory, which I think that's all for raising your memory fragments. Then we have the exclusive slice of cake, chocolate or sweet cocoa Nila, and then and that's for friendship. And then we have the advanced battle memory and advanced data support at the end. So all of this stuff is going to be what we're able to basically aim for. We're using a resource called the Pure White Fragment. So I think that this is actually a really, really good start for a first look at a shop, for sure. So yeah, that's basically that, guys. I hope that this was definitely a really, really fun video for you guys to watch. Maybe even gave you a little bit more insight. You learned something, or even just kind of got your brain tinkering on what you may want to do. I'm interested in knowing what exactly you guys may be theory crafting or trying to think of, or maybe willing or wanting to test. Definitely let me know in the comment section as well who you want to see next on here, because I'm going to be trying to bring other content creators and other minds in the community. It does not matter how big or small they are. I actually just I really, really want, and I want to be very clear on this, I want people on this podcast specifically that are going to add value to really helping those that want to learn the game, get better at the game, and really just making the most fun out of going for their different builds, etc. So yeah, let me know in the comment section down below. I appreciate all you guys for tuning in. Stay safe out there, stay blessed, and I'll catch you guys in the next Chaos Zero Nightmare video.